Hello everyone. Welcome to All Possible Questions. In this video, we'll be covering calculating limits. Limits has four subtopics: calculating limits, continuity, infinite limits, and others. In this video, we'll be covering the graphical side of calculating limits. So what is limits? Limits is simply as x approaches 4, y approaches 5. Now approaches is the key word here. It is not what x is at 4. It is what is the value of y as x approaches 4. Let's see it from a graphical perspective. We can see that when x is 6, y is 10. Now let's try moving x closer towards 4. We can see that as we move x closer towards 4, y is moving closer towards 5. If we move even closer, y is indeed moving even closer towards 5. That is the entire concept of limits. It does not matter what is the value of x at 4. Please note that it might not even be defined at 4. We only have to see that as we approach x, what is the value of y approaching towards. Now let's jump towards all the possible questions that you can get in calculating limits in a graphical form. You can see graphs A and B on your screens. In graph A, you can see that there are three graphs, a blue one, a red one, and a green one. And in graph B, you can see that there are two graphs, a blue one and a red one. Now these are the only 5 type of possible graphs that you will ever get or see in your exams. The examiner can ask you 3 questions. Question 1, does the limit exist? Question 2, what is the limit? And question 3, what is the one-sided limit? So let's look at the first graph. For the blue graph, question 1, does the limit exist at x is equal to 1? We can see that at x is equal to 1, y is 1. But if we look at the graph and try approaching 1 from the right side or from the left side, we can see that it is approaching 2. So does the limit exist at x is equal to 1? Yes. What is the limit at x is equal to 1? It is 2. Now you need to remember two rules while calculating limits. The first is that it does not matter what x is at 1. The only thing that matters is what is the value as x approaches 1. The second one is that it should approach the same value from left and right, which is true in this scenario because we can see that if we approach from the right, the value of x is approaching 2, but if we approach from the left, it is still approaching 2. Question 3. What is the one-sided limit at x is equal to 1 from the positive side? As the name suggests, one-sided limit is simply limit from one side, either from the positive or the negative. In calculating limits, you need to remember that positive just means the right side and negative just means the left side. These positive and negative have nothing to do with the value being positive or negative. These just mean the right side or the left side. So if we approach the graph from the right side, we can see that at x is equal to 1, we are approaching the value 2. So the value of one-sided limit from the positive side is 2. This was a basic question. Now let's jump towards something more complex. Let's look at graph number 2 or the red graph. Question 1. Does the limit exist at x is equal to minus 2? Rule number 1 is it does not matter what the value of x is at minus 2. And rule number 2 is that the left side limit and the right side limit should approach the same value. So at x is equal to minus 2, if we look at the graph from the right side or the positive side, we can see that it is approaching negative 2. But if we look at the graph from the negative side or the left side, we can see that it is approaching negative 4. So our rule number 2 over here is not being met because the left side and the right side are not equal. Hence, the limit does not exist. Question 2. What is the limit at x is equal to minus 2? As the limit does not exist, our answer remains the same, that it does not exist. Question 3. What is the one-sided limit at x is equal to minus 2 from the negative side? As we know that negative means left, we will try approaching it from the left and we see that it is approaching negative 4. So the answer to that is negative 4. The green graph can be your third possible question. So question 1. Does the limit exist at x is equal to 0? We can see that if we approach from the negative side, as we approach 0, we are approaching negative 2. And if we approach from the positive side, we are approaching negative 2 as well. Hence, does the limit exist? Yes. What is the limit at x is equal to 2? Minus 2. What is the one-sided limit at x is equal to 2 from the negative side? We can see that it is negative 2. So negative 2 is your answer. This red graph is the fourth possible type of question that you can get in your exam. Question 1. Does the limit exist at x is equal to 0? We already know the two rules to finding limits. Here I will tell you the third one. It should approach a finite value. Now if we try approaching 0 from the negative side, we can see that it is approaching positive infinity. And if we try approaching 0 from the positive side, we can see it is approaching positive infinity as well. Now although our rule number 2 is being met, the left side is equal to the right side, but our rule number 3 is not being met because it is not reaching a finite value. Hence, the limit does not exist. What is the limit at x is equal to 0? It does not exist. What is the one-sided limit at x is equal to 0 from the positive side? We can see that it is positive infinity. And this blue graph is the fifth and the last type of graph that you can get in your exam. Question 1. Does the limit exist at x is equal to minus 2? We can see that if we approach from the negative side, it is approaching positive infinity. And if we approach from the positive side, it is approaching negative infinity. You can see that both rule number 2 and rule number 3 are not being met. Positive infinity is not equal to negative infinity, and infinity is not even a finite value. Hence, the limit does not exist. What is the limit at x is equal to minus 2? It does not exist. And question 3. What is the one-sided limit at x is equal to minus 2 from the positive side? If we see it from the positive side, we can see that it is approaching negative infinity. Hence, the answer is negative infinity. Now, these are all the possible type of questions that you can get in your exam. Let's quickly do some practice questions and then summarize what we have learned. Here is our first practice question. I would suggest you to pause the video and try solving the question real quickly just in your mind. If you're one of those who understand the concept when it's being taught, but in exams either get confused within different topics or concepts or completely forget the concept, then according to a research, practicing questions, even if it's in your head, solves for the problem and helps in storing a clearer memory of the concepts. Now coming back to question 1, does the limit exist at x is equal to minus 4? We can see that if we approach x is equal to minus 4 from the positive side or the negative side, it approaches the same value, which is negative 2. As the left side is equal to the right side and it is reaching a finite value, it means that the limit does exist. For question 2, this is the same way the same question can be asked. What is the limit at x is equal to 4, or what is the limit as x approaches minus 4? Both of these things mean the same thing, and you can expect to get this connotation more in your exam. Anyway, we have already solved for it and we know that it is minus 2. For question 3, this is also the same way the same question can be asked. What is the one-sided limit at x is equal to 4 from the positive side? Or what is the limit as x approaches negative 4 from the positive side? The negative side would just be a negative over here. Now, if you look at the top right of your screen, it's a very common mistake that students in the pressure of the exam confuse these two signs and write negative 4 from the positive side as positive 4 from the negative side. Coming back to the question, limit as x approaches negative 4 from the positive side is negative 2. I will quickly go over the other practice questions. Does the limit exist at x is equal to 2? Yes, it does exist, and it is approaching 4. Hence, yes, it does exist and it is approaching 4. What is the one-sided limit at x is equal to 2 from the positive side? We can see that it is 4. Next question. Does the limit exist at x is equal to 2? We can see that if we approach from the negative side, it is approaching 2. If we approach from the positive side, it is approaching 0. Hence, the limit does not exist and the limit does not exist. What is the one-sided limit as x approaches 2 from the negative side? We have already seen that as we approach x is equal to 2 from the negative side, y value approaches 2. Hence, our answer is 2. Next question. Does the limit exist at x is equal to negative 4? We can see that if we approach from the positive side, it is reaching positive infinity. And if we reach from the negative side, it is reaching negative infinity. Hence, the limit does not exist. Question 2. It does not exist. Question 3. What is the one-sided limit as x approaches negative 4 from the negative side? We have already seen that it is negative infinity. Hence, negative infinity. Final question. Does the limit exist at x is equal to minus 1? We can see if we reach it from the negative side, it is reaching positive infinity. If we reach from the positive side, it is reaching positive infinity, but infinity is not a finite number. Hence, limit does not exist. Question 2. Limit does not exist. What is the limit as x approaches negative 1 from the positive side? We have already seen that if we approach from the positive side, it is reaching positive infinity. Hence, the answer is positive infinity. Now let's summarize what we have learned. On the right, we learned that there will be only 5 type of different graphs that can come in exam. Then there will be 3 type of questions that can be asked. Number 1, does the limit exist? We have 3 rules to identify if it exists or not. Number 1, we have to see if it approaches a value and not what the value is at that point. Number 2, the left should be equal to the right. And number 3, it should approach a finite value. Question number 2, find limit as x approaches 4. And question 3, find limit as x approaches negative 4 from the positive side. And we learned that positive just means the right side and negative just means the left side. We also discussed the common mistake that in exams under pressure sometimes students write x is equal to negative 4 from the positive side as positive 4 from the negative side and vice versa.